All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for the first networking masterclass of 2020. So we've taken a little bit of a break. We hope that you've also enjoyed your time to relax, and now we're glad to bring you some great new content for March and the beginning of 2020 for us with the Networking Masterclass webinar series. So if you're new to the webinar, just a few items that I want to bring up for general housekeeping. There is multiple ways to deliver audio for this webinar. If you're unfamiliar with GoToWebinar, there is a meeting panel or control panel on the side of your screen. If you're having a little difficulty hearing me, you may want to try changing from computer audio to a phone call, or perhaps from phone back to computer audio, depending on your location and coverage. Alternately, if you don't see a phone number listed when trying to get the phone call, you can click on problem dialing in, and there is additional numbers there. Specifically, we'll have numbers in each country from every participant that's joining us today. So if you don't see your number in the general list, you can click on additional numbers to have that as well. Finally, this webinar is not the same if it would just be us broadcasting our thoughts and opinions out to you. So we invite you, we'd love to get your feedback. So as the webinar is continuing, we'd love to, if you could post your questions into the Q&A panel, let us know what your thoughts are, and we'll try to get back to you live on the webinar. If for some reason we cannot, we hope to answer your question perhaps offline as well. If for some reason you really need to get an answer and we could not get back to you directly on the webinar today, we invite you to email us at networkingmasterclass@citrix.com, and we'll be happy to get back to you offline with anything that was not able to address or be addressed during the webinar today. Lastly, this session is being recorded. So what that means is if you need to step away, take a break, or perhaps you'd love to share this content with some of your colleagues or peers or friends, this recording will be available, and we'll send out an email following this webinar with a link to the recording. So if you had to miss some slides, or perhaps you'd just like to revisit some of the content to get a refresher on that or share it out, be rest assured that you will not miss any of the content, and we'll send out a link after the webinar in the following week with a link to that recording. Finally, who's with us today? So I'm your host, Dave Potter, and thank you for joining us for the Americas session of the Networking Masterclass webinar. And joining us today are guest presenters, Hari Haran, Arvind, and Vikas. And the presenters today will be delivering quite a bit of content, and we're going to plan on just about 1 hour focusing on the ADC and what we do specifically across hybrid multi-cloud environments, and what we're doing specifically with Cisco in the private data center area. And then finally, I'll be closing things up with the news, and we'll have a little bit of a prize giveaway for you today as a token of our appreciation for you joining us. So relax, we've got quite a bit coming up in our spotlight. The feature topic will be about ADC deployments in the hybrid multi-cloud. Now, I mentioned using that Q&A panel for any questions that you think up. I also invite you to open up that panel and post any questions or any thoughts that you have in terms of what you'd like to see going forward in content from the Networking Masterclass this year. We love your ideas and suggestions, and in fact, the agenda from today was one of the top requested items of 2019. So we're kicking off the new year with your suggested feedback. If you have any other topics that you'd like to see or some modifications to what we have today, we invite you to post those into the Q&A panel. Finally, who's with us today? This is the favorite part of the webinar session, because I get to really show, it really shows kind of who's joining us from across the US. So it's fantastic. So thank you so much for the participation today from the countries in no particular order. Great representation from folks in Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Brazil, the UK, and Venezuela. And we're having a slightly larger participation. So thank you for the robust participation from Canada, Mexico, and India. What's fascinating about India is it really straddles between the two different sessions that we have. So I think if India could join just all one session instead of split between the two, they may even show a little bit higher in the list today. And of course, thank you from everyone within the United States for joining us online today to represent our core audience. So before I get into get into the content, I want to mention the prize giveaway. So as a reward for joining us today and staying with us through the webinar, we'll be asking a question from some of the content today. It won't be something very tricky, but it will require a little bit of an ear to catch up on what the answer might be. So I'll be asking a question from the content today at the end of the webinar, and the winner will get to take away Google Home Max prize. So this is a little bit different than the Google Home Hub. This is the Max version. It's an improved version, and it allows you to control all the things in your home, as well as do video conferencing and watch live videos. So with that, we'll keep your ears peeled, and we'll be doing the prize giveaway at the end of the webinar. So with that, I'd like to introduce Hari in our spotlight topic to talk to us about the Citrix ADC HMC deployments on hybrid multi-cloud environments, Azure and AWS. In fact, I'm mistaken, it's not Hari. This will be Arvind joining us first. So if I could bring you online, Arvind, are you with us?
Yes, Dave. Thank
Great,
you.
I hear you well. Would you like to be presenter?
Yes, please.
All right, switching it over to you now.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, everyone. This is Arvind from Citrix ADC product management team. So myself and Hari will take you through this topic, Citrix ADC HMC deployment. If you are aware of NetScaler, it's the same, Citrix ADC. We just rebranded. We still hear NetScaler a lot from our customers. Like many of our customers don't know what is Citrix ADC, but they know NetScalers. So if any of you are there, so this is NetScaler, your NetScaler. So today, as part of this topic, like we designed like the learning objective for this session in a way that we saw many of our customers are moving from on-prem to public cloud. We saw they have been using on-prem deployments for a long time, and they have started moving. And we see there is a little complexity that we see with our customers or anyone when this migration journey. What's the difference between the networking on-prem versus cloud? So this topic we might not deal into the details, but we will just touch upon just to set the stage of the terminology and architecture. And then we came across a lot of real customer use cases that we heard, that we have worked on, that we have deployed. So we just want to share some of those use cases so they can be a reference architectures for you, and also to understand the value proposition of ADC in the cloud. So during the migration or after the migration, what value Citrix ADC can bring to your cloud works. So to cover this learning objective, we designed agenda this way, so that first we'll touch up a little bit on the on-premise and cloud networking, just to set the stage, the terminology, and then some of the customer deployments to learn from, and then like during the transition migration, like how Citrix can help those deployments, and then we see the value proposition and summary. So going to the on-premise versus cloud networking. So we see like many of the on-prem networking IT teams are now trying to deploy on cloud, and they're trying to learn new skills. So the main things that we need to recollect, these are not the only things, but the key things are the terminology and the architecture. So because when you are started talking about new deployments, the terminology changes. Maybe traditionally we might be talking about leaf spine or tree architecture or spanning tree. But when you come to AWS or Azure, you might be talking different language, but you might refer something similar, like we have some one-to-one mappings, but not everything is one-to-one mapped. So when you go to Amazon, maybe you will be talking as Amazon VPC, instances, within availability zone, across availability zone, regions, all that. And if you go to Azure, you will talk about VNet, instances, availability zone, and availability set, which is very specific to Azure. So the terminology would change from on-prem to cloud, and also with across clouds. So that's what we need to recollect or gain knowledge on. And then the architectures also differ along with this terminology, so that we all talk same language. And when we see that people are trying to build hybrid clouds or multiple clouds, so they'll be combining all these terminology in their deployment architecture. That's why it becomes very important that we know the difference and the commonality across these deployments. So as we know, like we have seen customers like we have offering in our cloud like AWS and Azure from long time, like 2012, and Azure we launched 3 to 4 years back. So we have been seeing that customers are migrating, and there are different patterns that we have seen. Like some customers, they keep their on-prem as is, and they try to build a new environment in the cloud expand, and they try to connect their on-prem to cloud and make it hybrid. And some customers, they completely go away with their on-prem and then move to cloud. So different kind of things. So basically, customers are trying to transition, move, retain, different kind of strategies they have. So they're trying to connect these two different worlds, and what kind of services will help, or what kind of services are available. And again, these are not the only services that are there, but these are some of the key services that are useful to connect these worlds, like AWS Direct Connect, offered by AWS, basically to connect your on-prem data center to the VPCs. And then you have virtual private gateway. Basically, this acts like an ECMP route to set a WAN routers. Basically, terminates two services like the VPN and the AWS Direct Connect. And then you have Internet Gateway, wherein if you want to provide internet access to your instances, this service is used. And NAT Gateway, if you want your private subnet to have an access to the internet. And you have VPN, which we all know, basically to connect your on-prem devices to the internet or to the AWS networking. And then similar solutions are there in the Azure world also, to connect the Azure cloud to your on-prem, like Express Route Gateway, basically to connect your on-prem to the Azure. And then you have VPN Gateway. Basically, this is used to send encrypted traffic between an Azure virtual network and on-premise location over public internet. So as I said, these are not the only solutions to connect these two different worlds. There are so many vendors out there providing different solutions. So these are some of the key tools or services that are offered by public cloud that we are just highlighting here. So, but basically, even for migration transition, these two worlds need to be connected. So that's what we are trying to show here. So as we said, like on-premise versus cloud networking, once we are aware of the terminology and the architectures, we can seamlessly connect these worlds, and we can even, like if you want to discuss with somebody else, so the terminology need to match. So that's what we are trying to bring. And then here, because why we are stressing on this is like when we're talking to customers, we clearly saw this, like during this journey, like the terminology was different, networking was different. So it really need for people to align on what they are talking and what they're doing. So here we will take up with some of the customer journeys for this hybrid and multi-public clouds. So one use case, using cloud as disaster recovery. This reminds me of some of our discussions with some customers like 2 years back, wherein they were talking about their on-prem data disaster recovery solutions, wherein they will have a remote location with a small data center with fuel tanks standing there, and a service provider is providing all that service. And if that fuel tank is enough to run the generator for 2 days, if it has to run for more than 2 days, then a special service has to be taken. So there are so many complicated contracts that they have to sign with different vendors, and it was so difficult to manage, maintain, costly affair. And when they started hearing about things that they can do in the public cloud seamlessly, they were so fascinated. Wow, like they don't have to, they can just go away with all those complexities. Now a disaster recovery solution can be built on cloud, and that can be built in any region they want, or even these public cloud providers provide an advantage of building data centers in some edge locations, giving better user experience or quick disaster recovery. And also the good part is, like, as the cloud model is the consumption model, only if you're consuming you have to pay, otherwise you don't have to pay. So they started analyzing all these benefits, and they also saw many of the vendor products that they are using on their on-prem data center, they are already offering in the public cloud, and they already offer tools to migrate from on-prem to public cloud. So there was no hurdle to create disaster recovery solutions or disaster recovery data centers in the cloud. So then they started taking advantage of the backup restore strategy. Then as they clearly saw the TCO benefit, it clearly has lower energy consumption and it was easy to implement. There are so many templates that they would have built for their on-prem, and those templates can be leveraged. Like we clearly saw many customers using tools which are very generic. So the same tool, same automation tool that they have used on-prem can be leveraged for the cloud. So that's how they saw the benefit of moving to the cloud, and this is one of the use case for that. And then another use case, using cloud for data center expansion and on-demand scaling or cloud busting. So this is another scenario that we saw. Like many of the customers who have their on-prem data centers, they don't want to go away. They want to keep those on-prem data centers. And if there is an expansion in their business, or if some department wants, like new departments getting added, new applications getting added, instead of expanding their on-prem data center, they were just moving to the cloud, like expanding their current data center into the cloud. Or like they see maybe some existing applications need some additional capacity on a specific time of a day or a specific day of a week or specific day in a year. So only that time they try to go into the cloud, get the resources. And if they don't want, just release the resources and just keep using the on-prem. So all these kind of advantages and use cases that customers saw with this public cloud, and the combination of this public cloud with their on-prem data center, basically the hybrid cloud. And we also saw many of customers using advantage of multiple clouds, which I'll cover in the next use case. So basically, this is one of the other most used use cases by our customers. And then use case 3, this is using cloud for better user experience for global users. So this one, again, we saw here a specific thing you can see. The customer has on-prem data center, and they also have multiple clouds in different regions. So, and again, they were using tools to connect these environments, and they were trying to automate basically. And they used Citrix ADM, Application Delivery Manager, basically, which manages different ADCs which are in different location, different NetScalers which are in different location. So they try to automate the provisioning and configuration. So because they were on-prem, they were not removing the on-prem, but they were expanding into the clouds, and they were trying to replicate whatever they have in the on-prem to the edge locations in the cloud, so that they give better user experience and all the benefits that hybrid cloud or multiple cloud brings. So that way they were using. So as I said, these are few of the use cases that were mostly seen in last few years, but there are many other use cases that we are dealing with. Maybe in the future webinars, we'll share more use cases, but to start with, these were the basic or most used use cases that we see in our customer base. So as I said, in these customer journey, you clearly see that customers are moving from on-prem to public cloud completely or partially or across different clouds. Like, how do we help customers in transitioning to this hybrid cloud strategy is the next part. So Citrix ADC automation, any tool, any environment. So it is, to be frank, this automation has nothing to do with the Citrix product. But in many of our customers' environment, what we saw is like on their on-prem, they use multiple vendor components. So even to automate something across multiple vendor components, they have built their automation framework. Like some of the customers with whom we talk, they proudly talk about their automation framework, saying that we have built like this, like that. So they are very much proud of building that automation frameworks. And what advantage that has brought to them is not only different vendor components, when they are shifting from one platform to another platform, like on-prem to public cloud or any public cloud, those tools are supporting the automation framework there. And some of the tools that we came across are like Ansible, Terraform. And as we said, like some of the customers are like going away from the on-prem and completely moving to the public clouds. They are started using automation frameworks of that specific cloud. Like AWS will use CloudFormation, Azure will use resource managers, and Google will have similar tool. So that's how people started using like different strategy, different kind of mindset they have. Like the people who use Ansible and Terraform are very much tech savvy. They have their dedicated development teams who develop these automation frameworks for their on-prem and cloud environments. And as Citrix ADC is being used in all these environments, we ourselves have built GitHub repositories for these tools, which can be consumed by customers directly. So that's how we simplified the customer migration from on-prem to cloud, or if they are using both, yes, they are welcome to use, and they can use ADM to manage the hybrid multi-cloud environments. So that is the advantage that we bring to the table here with ADC automation as well as ADM. And how do we do it? It's just because of our powerful REST APIs. They are very simple, they are very interoperable. That's why you see the same API being used across tools and across environments. They are developer friendly. That's why we see a lot of traction on our GitHub repositories. We get a lot of pull requests, a lot of contribution requests, and then the adoption also. Like we see these tools or these scripts are being adopted across all the environments. And we also have a different set of customers here. Like, as I said, Ansible, Terraform, CFD, ARMs, they would need little bit of development efforts. We see it like a scripting. And we also have some customers who wanted a vendor's guidance, like our guidance, to build those automation things. And for that, the solution from ours is the ADM. So ADM has many advantages. I'm just focusing on the automation part of it. So here, like customer would have created a provisioning for their on-prem and cloud. Similar capability, we brought it in the ADM. So from ADM, you can provision instances in the cloud, or you can auto scale. You can create like scalable ADCs in the cloud from ADM, and ADM will monitor them and scale them. And then after provisioning and deploying these ADCs, like the NetScalers in the cloud, you can also configure. You have different ways to configure. You can do auditing on the configuration. You can automate the configuration, or you can define your application configuration as a slide book, and you create a template. And today you are on one cloud, tomorrow you're expanding to a different cloud or moving to a different cloud. Just apply the same template on the other cloud and you get the same deployment. So those kind of template automation mechanisms are there. And we also have some additional things, like you can schedule things. If you want to upgrade your deployments in some specific maintenance period, you can schedule them, or you can schedule the notifications, wherein like what kind of notifications need to be received to whom, what time, and how, what kind of channel need to be used, SMS, email, all that can be defined. So here there is no coding required, no scripting. So you just have to go, it's a wonderful GUI. So you just configure and get things done. So it's a different kind of customer segment that we are talking. Like some people are comfortable in developing their own automation framework. Some people are comfortable in leveraging the ADM automation that it brings to the table. So that is one. And this is again about the different customer segment who are like completely go away with the on-prem and they completely want to do in the AWS or specific cloud. Then the specific cloud vendors have brought in the automation framework. So here AWS has brought a quick start automation framework. So basically it gives us a document integrated with the architecture diagram and the scripts. So you read the document, you understand the architecture, and from the document itself, the scripts are linked. So you click the links and then deploy. So the architecture that you see in the documentation will be the deployment that you get at the end of running the script. So that's how they try to combine everything so that you know what you are going to deploy, what you're going to get after deploying the automation template. And we worked with AWS team and we published one automation framework, and this is easy and seamless deployment. And this can be customized, like these scripts also can be customized by customers if they have some scripting knowledge. So basically, this is to accelerate the customer journey to the cloud. And that was the quick start for the deployment. And now AWS also has come up with a pattern library. They call this is for the migration part. Like if somebody has an existing ADC configurations on-prem, like then how do you shift those, or how do you take those configurations to the cloud? So as we know, like we saw, the terminologies are different, the worlds in the on-prem and cloud are different. So all that things are taken care in this framework. So this pattern library will help to take your on-prem deployments to the cloud with a migration plan and migration execution. And then, as I said, like those were the scripting things and some of the public cloud specific. And then when you come to ADM specific, as I said, we already have provisioning and an autoscale. So this is very specific to autoscale solution. So the same solution, same framework from the same product is provided on different clouds, AWS and Azure. So here we use two-tier architecture wherein you have Citrix ADCs, NetScalers, running in clusters across availability zones. And then you have a traffic distribution modes wherein we leverage the public cloud native services like from the AWS Route 53 and AWS NLB, or from Azure DNS and Azure LB. So with these, leveraging these existing solutions, we have built the autoscale solution. So you just have to go to ADM and configure how many instances with what is the minimum instance that with you want to start, what should be the maximum capacity that I want to get. And you can also see like how much, like based on what parameters you want to scale, like whether it is CPU, memory. So all those can be defined. And you can also see, you can also define like how much time I need to wait before a event or scale out event happen, or how much time I need to wait before scale down event happens, so that the connections that are being handled by the node are completely drained out. So all those kind of policies can be defined, and the whole thing is automated by ADM. You just have to define the policies. ADM will create the deployment, and it will scale up, scale down based on the requirement. So that's how this self-sustained or automated solution you can think of. So those were some of the offerings you heard, like what some of our customers are deploying, the use cases of the customers in this hybrid journey, and how we are helping them to transition and the migration of their deployments. And then in the next section, we will hear about the value proposition and a little bit of summary from Hari. So with that, I give control to Hari.
Yeah, you can just pass that over to Hari. And then Arvind, I think there were some questions about some of the product names, and then also a little bit about, is there a difference between on-prem and ADM service? Is there one that works better with the scaling solutions that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think, yeah, there's a good point. Like ADM, as we said, we have both on-prem and ADM service, and they are same solutions with same feature set. So you should be free. You should feel free to adopt these services based on your strategy. Like if you have an hybrid strategy, and if you want ADM to be in your data center and controlling your hybrid scenarios, or if you want ADM service to control all your hybrid multi-cloud deployments, anything is plausible. That is the flexibility that ADM gives.
Fantastic. Cool. Thanks so much, Arvind. Hari, are you with us?
I have a poll here,
yes,
which I forgot to launch. So I think very few questions, a poll question. So I'll try to launch them, and please provide your response. This is mainly to understand your mindset and the market. So with that, I will launch the first one.
Oh, sorry about that, Arvind. Let me make you the presenter again.
Okay. Yeah, please.
It's okay. We got the poll. Looks like we are good. So if everyone could take a moment to provide us some quick feedback. We're looking
we'll
just to understand what is your current need in deploying out to the cloud? What is your business purpose? Are you looking for scale, DR, disaster recovery, or are you actually migrating? It looks like we're getting some pretty good feedback. Looks fairly evenly split.
So 10 more seconds, Dave. I think after that we can stop and go to next poll, right?
Yeah, if you go ahead and you can close the poll. And if you care to share the results, I think it'd surprise the audience.
I'm just
They're
closing the
fairly evenly
poll,
split.
and then I'll share the results so that you can see how the poll results look. So basically, data center expansion on-premise is the highest one, and then moving away from on-premise is also there. Oh, and we also have not at in public cloud. Yeah, this will give a lot of information. So I'll just hide this and go to the next poll, the last poll from my side. So yeah, we can start voting.
So the question for everyone is, what kind of applications do you plan to run in the public cloud if you're going into the public cloud, that is? So we're looking for, are you looking just to have a place to host your internal apps? Are these all customer facing? Is it a mix? Looks like a large majority says it's a mix.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to me to see that people are using the public cloud for internal app expansion as well. So a good amount of people there are saying this is also for their inside homegrown apps.
Yeah, I think we can close and share the results.
Yeah.
So I take the poll and then I'll share. So here you can see the results. So both internal and public applications are the one which is highest, and then a lot of customers are using for internal applications. Good to see that. So with that, I will hide this and then shift control to Hari. It's all yours, Hari.
All right. Thanks, Harvind.
Yeah, thanks, Arvind. Thanks so much. It was really good. You did the base wherein you covered the use cases and automation, or what and all are required for public cloud. Now I'm going to talk about value proposition and summary. Before that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Hariharan Subramanian. I'm Citrix ADC Product Manager for Public Clouds, and I'm based out of Santa Clara in the US. So with that, I was able to answer a lot of questions, very good questions coming from all of over here in the this thing. And just a minute. So am I audible?
Yes, you sound good, Hari.
Okay, sure. Okay, let's just go ahead. This coming to what Arvind was referring to when he talked about whole auto scale solution, how it is being done. So you might have clearly seen that Citrix ADM is a major component here, which orchestrates the whole of the deployments in the public cloud for auto scale. And you might have also clearly seen that we need, or the customers need, if they want to extend their on-prem to the public cloud, they need an express route or the direct connect. And with the poll question that was there, whether you use private applications or the public-facing applications, you chose both, which means that most of the customers who have already decided to move public cloud, they have already established a path, either using a express route on Azure or the direct connect on AWS, right? So with that brings gives two solutions to you, or what Citrix gives two solutions here. You can either use ADM on the public cloud. On the Citrix cloud, we have an offering of Citrix ADM service, and we also have a Citrix ADM on-prem. There was one more question about what Citrix ADM is. So very good question on that one. So previously we called Citrix ADM as NetScaler MAS, Management Analytics System, and that has been now renamed to Citrix ADM. So what Citrix ADM does is that it can do automation that Arvind clearly defined, and it also does orchestration, wherein we can install the VPX on the public cloud or deploy the VPX on the public cloud, just click of a button on the ADM. It can also view what and all ADCs have configured, either in public cloud or on-prem, and it can also do analytics like HDX Insight and Web Insight, Security Insights, a lot of cool things that you can do. And here in this slide, you have clearly shown, you clearly see that what and all appliances we support. We support virtual appliances on-prem, which is we called VPX, right? And this same VPX can also, we also do support in all public clouds, major public clouds, meaning AWS, Azure, and GCP. So we also have an appliance called CPX. It's container-based, which is supported also on the public clouds and on private clouds. We have a bare metal offering, which is BLX, which is supported on-prem and in public cloud. Oracle, specifically on Oracle, we have tested and supported BLX. So if you're thinking about Oracle Cloud, then you need to go with the BLX. It's a bare metal hypervisor. It runs as a process under Linux. And then you might have already aware about our hardware appliances, standalone hardware appliances, which is MPX, and then you can also do HA on that one and clustering with MPX. So for our multi-tenant appliance, we have SDX. So if you can combine multiple SDX as a form of a HA, and also you can do clustering wherein VPX runs on top of SDX, and you can cluster your whole VPX environment to do scale up. So as this thing, our core value proposition with Citrix ADM is that it's a single place of grass across the whole of hybrid multi-cloud world, which can manage all this appliances for you. And good thing to note that everything runs on the same code base. So feature-wise, if a feature we release on an on-prem, with the same version, it is going to be run on the cloud as well. So feature-wise, feature parity-wise, we are all same in all the platforms. So there's one more question, whether you can do this thing on GCP or not. So as for, I want to repeat, as far as feature-wise, we can do everything on all the appliances. The only difference is that when it comes to GCP, auto-scaling is not supported. We support auto-scaling on AWS and Azure for now. So one more thing about is that when you're thinking about hybrid multi-cloud environment, right? So the licensing becomes the important thing to take care when you're architecting the whole solution. And with our pool licensing, it becomes very simple for you to deploy an application, whether on-prem or the cloud. And when you deploy the Citrix ADC to load balance that application, you can make sure that how much bandwidth you need to provide to on-prem and how much bandwidth you need to provide to the cloud environment. In this example, if you have a pool capacity of 300 Gbps, you can make sure that 200 goes to on-prem, and slowly you can start deploying applications and give certain 50 gig in this example to the public cloud. And public cloud, and make sure that as and when the cloud deployment increases, what happens is that you can distribute it amount more. Like in this case, previously you had given 200 Gbps to on-prem. Now you have made sure that 150 goes to the public cloud and 100 is only remaining in on-prem. So it's a low barrier cloud virtualization. So what we can do is that basically you're thinking that whatever the use case that Arvind was talking about, whether disaster recovery does not need much of a throughput over there, so you can just keep it 5 gig and rest will be on-prem. But if you decide to lift and shift your applications as and when, you will be able to lift and shift the bandwidth also using the pool capacity. Coming to the value proposition 2 here, the deployment flexibility. So we support different deployment flexibility, ranging from what you are architecting. Let's say you're architecting a DR solution wherein a standalone is good enough, right? So we already have templates available. Like in case of AWS, we have CFT template. In case of Azure, we have ARM template. And GCP also we have templates. So these templates can be easily used to stand up a standalone instance of Citrix ADC VPX on public cloud. The same thing is true for HA also. So you are going away with DR use case and moving to a proper supportability use case, wherein you want to make sure that certain users in your close to specific public cloud regions wants faster connectivity. Then you can make sure they get you create an HA pair closer to that region so that they can get their applications faster. So we also have a template to cloud specific. As Arvind pointed out, in case of AWS, the availability zone is what AWS refers to. But in case of Azure, we have availability set and availability zone. The difference between availability and availability zone is the percentage that they have. They want to give us that it gives 99.95% availability, and the other availability zone gives 99.99% availability. So depending on the availability that you want, you can choose the respective availability set or availability zone and use our template to deploy this thing. The backend autoscale template is nothing but when you start thinking about autoscaling. So backend autoscaling refers to autoscaling the web servers piece, right? So you know, Citrix ADC is a powerful appliance which can probably handle 100 of web servers, right? But how you scale to hundreds of web servers, right? It is based on the specific public cloud service. In case of AWS, that service is called autoscale group. So you create 2 web servers or 1 web server and make sure it is in the autoscale group. So automatically when the load increases, the new web server is spun automatically by the autoscale group, or in case of Azure, it's called VM scale set. So once new services comes up or new web servers comes up, the new IPs are detected by Citrix ADC and put into the service group. So higher the traffic coming, so all the web servers are scaled up, and then evenly the load is evenly shared by the Citrix load balancer here. And we have an ARM template or a CFT template for that also. Now, coming to the last part here, the front-end autoscaling, what Arvind referred to was autoscaling, right? The autoscaling solution, front-end autoscaling is nothing but autoscaling Citrix ADCs itself, right? So this is done by the Citrix ADM. So Citrix ADM does both the blue one and violet one, wherein backend autoscaling as well as the front-end autoscaling is done by the Citrix ADM. Together. So as and when the traffic increases, first the backend servers are scaled up and IPs are detected by the NetScaler and added to the service group. So the specific VPX gets saturated, and then the Citrix ADM scales 1 more VPX and adds it to the cluster node, right? By that, so also the Citrix ADC auto scales here. So these solutions are available to you guys to use. The third value proposition is the high performance here. So as you know that we support both standalone HA deployment, and in case of AWS, a single instance can support 30 Gbps of throughput. This is achievable in the latest Nitro hypervisors. As you know, previously AWS was using Zen hypervisors. Now all the latest regions are started using the Nitro hypervisors, and they have also introduced the ENA driver. So we have incorporated ENA driver in our Citrix ADC VPX code on AWS. And based on that, if you choose these instances, C5, M5, and C5N instance type, you will have the support of ENA drivers, and each of the VPX can scale maximum up to 30 Gbps. That's staggering. The other part is the autoscale. If you say combine this in the autoscale solution, let's take an example with Azure here. So maximum throughput that we support is 3 Gbps. With the latest version, we are going to support 6 Gbps for each VPX. So if you have a throughput requirement wherein you need to scale to, let's say, 100 Gbps, either on AWS and Azure, you can use our autoscale solution to scale to that throughput or SSL performance. In this example I've just given over here on AWS and Azure, we can support in a single instance, we can support a 10K RSA ECDHE transactions per second per node. So if your requirement is that you want, let's say, 500K TPS, you can architect your system in an autoscale cluster to achieve that. Coming to the value proposition 4, security is a very important part. We are seeing a lot of our customers moving to the cloud are also bothered how we are going to have a WAF in place, or shall we need to use a cloud provided WAF, like AWS has its own WAF and Azure has its own WAF combined with Azure Application Gateway. So if you already have a license or you know how to use Citrix ADC on-prem, the same code is going to be there on your AWS and Azure cloud. So you just need to enable that particular feature. One thing to note that WAF is available only for the premium edition. So you need to have the Citrix ADC premium edition license to activate WAF. But it is even better because in case of a cloud provider, what you're trying to do is that when you want to support, let's say, WAF on, have a use case of WAF on the AWS, you need to go AWS ALB. First you need to have, then you need to have AWS WAF. So you need to have two services to make that work. And probably if you want to also do GSLB solution, then you need to add one more service called Cloud 53. So to have these things, you need to have 3 services to attain one solution. But in case of VPX, you just need to have one box with a premium license which can do all these things at once. Coming to the feature capabilities of WAF. So this WAF, we introduced bot management in the Citrix ADC 13.0 version. It's very powerful. So when we just released it, it can do a mitigated or automated threats, and then a behavioral detection, kapata. So a lot of things, features are now supported with the bot mitigation. The one benefit that you have, as I explained before, is the lower cost. So you have one VPX, and if you have pool capacity license with that, you can make sure that you can have the same configuration on the on-prem as well as on the public cloud. So entire thing. So you just need to have a premium license, WAF and bot together, and it will just serve the purpose. Let me just go back to here. This example is a very good example wherein we have AWS or Azure, or it can be both. It can be a multi-cloud environment and running the Citrix ADC on the cloud, and you also have an on-prem. You can make sure to enable the GSLB on the Citrix ADC and also do WAF functionality. So everything, and end user, wherever they are, based on the close proximity, Citrix GSLB solution will redirect this end user to the nearest one, or which has lower latency. The value proposition 5 that I want to talk about is we are aligning with our cloud providers to make sure that whatever the latest and the greatest they have, they bring it to the table. We are integrating with that one. Azure Stack was introduced last year. It became, a lot of our customers started using it. So we made sure that Citrix ADC now works with Azure Stack. And the same thing is true with Outpost. So we have support for Outpost. The same level of whatever is supported on the AWS cloud is also supported in Outpost, and then we can run Citrix ADC on Outpost, so that you just need to use our application either on-prem or cloud, or in both hybrid scenario, you can use Citrix ADC to do load balancing of your applications of choice. Coming to the value proposition 6, this is very crucial. So a lot of our customers were talking about they have been having their Active Directory in place for long, and they have customized that Active Directory. And then when we move to cloud, what we need to do, we don't want one more identity provider to use. So Azure came up with the Azure Active Directory, right? So that's a major thing. What you need to do is that you need to create a connector onto your on-prem. You can sync all your local Active Directory to the Azure Active Directory. So you have one single source of identity across the on-prem as well as the cloud. Now, Citrix ADC seamlessly integrates with Azure Active Directory. Now here, Citrix ADC acts as a service provider, and thus Azure Active Directory acts as identity provider. So in this scenario, wherever your application be, this is a very specific slide. If you see, right, we have everything. We have Google Cloud here, AWS Cloud here, Oracle Cloud, Azure, or we have SaaS apps, on-prem apps, a lot of things. So it does not matter where you are. We are supporting our Citrix ADC on all the places, all the clouds and on-prem, right? So if you have this interaction or integration with the Azure Active Directory and Citrix ADC, wherever the customer comes or whatever the customer is accessing an application, it'll be redirected to, if it has an authentication enabled, it'll be redirected to first the Azure Active Directory, right? So first, let's say that the specific application was built to support Kerberos authentication. We do support Kerberos authentication with the internal applications. So what happens is whenever the customer tries and accesses that application, he'll be redirected to the Azure AD. Azure AD will prompt the end user username, password, and PIN. Once they and then we will receive a token, and then we'll make sure that we give access to that particular application. So this was a very powerful message that we delivered at Ignite 2019. So our customers are already started using this. So very powerful integration. With that, this end of my slides. Dave, you want to add something?
Oh, sure. So we have quite a bit of participation in the chat. So there's quite a bit. So I'd like to just ask some questions here with you on the phone to see if we can cover some of that. So there was a lot of terminology in there about BLX, MPX, ADM, and GCP. Would you mind just clarifying real quickly what the difference is, say, between those different things? So BLX, MPX, VPX, and then what is GCP?
Yes. So GCP is a Google Cloud Platform, right? So that's the Google's cloud. It's Google Cloud. So we have Citrix ADC offering on Google Cloud. That's one. The second one was BLX. So in my slide, I just told you the plethora of appliances that we support, right? So we call VPX. VPX is virtual Citrix ADC, right? Which is run on public clouds, which is run on-prem hypervisors, right? BLX is the new appliance that we release. It's the bare metal VPX, we can say. So this is run as a process on Linux, right? So just like Nginx, for example. So that's how why we have BLX over here. CPX is containerized VPX, containerized Citrix ADC. So it is run on a Docker container. And the same thing, we have AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service. So if you want to run your applications on Azure Kubernetes Service, you should use Citrix ADC CPX on there to load balance your north-south traffic and also the east-west traffic.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Hari. Another big question that I've seen come up quite a bit today is, great, I see all these different form factors and platforms in different environments, but are the same features available in each one, or is it the feature set a little bit different? Can you shed some light on that?
Sure. So as I said, we have a single code base, right? So single code base means whatever the appliance, if it's MPX or SDX or VPX, BLX, CPX, all has a single code base. So all the feature sets that we are supported is supported across this platform, right? So No issues at all. But let's say some very cloud specific thing. Somebody was asking whether autoscale is supported on GCP. Autoscale integration is not part of Citrix ADC. It is out of Citrix ADC. It is done on the ADM side. So we are developing that right now. If you want autoscale on GCP, it is right now not available. One more thing is with cloud specific things, that throughputs also comes into play, right? As we have mentioned, in case of AWS, we can support 30 Gbps throughput. In case of Azure, we can support only 6 GB of throughput. And then with GCP, we can support 10 Gbps of throughput. So those are the only difference. But as far as the WAF feature set, bot management, you need to choose that particular build and everything should work wherever, whichever form factors we have.
Fantastic. That's very reassuring. And then one final one, and this is kind of stemming from something Arvind presented on. He presented a lot of features on ADM. And so the question is, if I use ADM service or ADM on-prem, would I be able to use the same solutions, or do I need to prefer one platform for a certain type of deployment?
Awesome question. So it depends on what you want to do. Suppose the idea is to do architecting a solution for autoscale, right? So autoscale we started supporting from Q2 of 2019, right? So you need to take a build 12.1, ADM 12.1, I think so 58.x or higher to get that one. So it is always better to use the latest and the greatest that is available for that particular for Citrix ADM. So 13.0 latest is an awesome. That's the reason we have a service. So we just get into this jargon about, hey, which version should I use to get this feature set or not. But if you can use Citrix Cloud, Citrix ADM, Citrix Cloud, that will be great, because Citrix ADM on Citrix Cloud is managed by us, and it is always kept latest and the greatest. It will have the feature set, newer feature set, or better feature set than the Citrix ADC, the Citrix ADM on-prem. So we have a quarter difference. So if you see a new feature that is available on Citrix ADM Cloud, the same feature will be available in a quarter on Citrix ADM on-prem.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing that and for speaking today, Hari. I think that covers most of the questions from the audience. If you would mind sticking around to catch any lingering questions, that would be much appreciated. So thanks so much, Hari. So with that, I'd like to begin our next and final topic on the agenda, and that is, so now we've covered the private and public cloud expansion. What we'd like to do now is introduce something that we're doing specifically with Cisco in the private cloud. And speaking to us today is Vikas. So Vikas, I'd like to bring you on and talk to us about the ADC Manager for Cisco.
Sure, Dave. Can you make me the presenter?
Sure. And you've got it.
Perfect. Thank you. I hope everybody can see my screen.
Looks good, and we can hear you well.
Awesome. So first, a very quick introduction. My name is Vikas Mathur. I'm part of the Citrix ADC product management team based out of Bangalore in India. I'm going to talk to you today about the recent launch we did for what we call the Citrix ADC Manager App. This app was launched toward the end of Jan at Cisco Live in Barcelona. And this is a very new offering which may be of interest to you if you or your customers have Citrix ADCs in the Cisco ACI environment. Just a bit of background before I get into the app description itself. The primary reason we went about doing this app is that if you're already familiar with the ACI environment, you would know that there's this concept called device packages. That was a standard mechanism, and actually still is a standard mechanism for customers, ACI customers, to manage devices in that ACI environment. And Citrix ADCs were also managed using the device package. And that continues to be a regular way of managing ADCs. Now, what Cisco has done recently is come up with a slightly different model for partners like us to provide capability and functionality related to those devices via what they call the DC App Center. It's really a data center, what they call the data center app center. It's somewhat like a marketplace, which is very similar in some ways to other app marketplaces you might see, or marketplaces you might see in Amazon or AWS. So it really provides a repository where partners like Citrix can go and add applications there. These applications are typically very lightweight, and they could have one set of functionality, or they could have a related set of functionality in one app. A partner could choose to have multiple apps there for different capabilities and so on. So the idea is that from a customer point of view, you would pick the app that is of interest to the the functionality you want to use, and you just set up that app in your Epic UI and go ahead and use that. Now, I should also state that while Cisco calls it a app center, and what we have launched is also an app, it's really not an app in the sense of a mobile app which you download in some device and then run it there. When you quote download this app, it really sets itself up in the Epic UI. So to anybody familiar with the Cisco ACI, you'll be familiar also with the Epic UI, which is the administrative interface to ACI. And these apps from the marketplace really extend that environment and enable functionality related to your app, so to your devices. So for anybody who's familiar with that environment, it's really easy, and literally there's no learning curve in starting to use these the so-called applications. So with that very quick background, let me just jump into what this app does, and then we'll follow up with a very quick demo as well. Okay. So a few things we kept in mind while designing this app. Like I mentioned already, it's very easy to use, not just because of the way we design it, but also the way the whole app model has been designed by Cisco. On our side, other than ease of use, we've also provided a few predefined application templates, making it easier for customers to deploy applications by filling in just a few parameters, not having to put in all the details about various aspects which you would otherwise do while configuring an application. And you'll see that in the demo in a little bit. In addition to configuring and setting up the ADCs, the app also provides very comprehensive insights into that device which has just been configured. It shows it has got various dashboards, different levels, a summary dashboard, and a little more detailed dashboard to show various aspects of various operational aspects, and also show the general health of the device and what kind of traffic flow it is seeing and things like that. So we'll show you all of that in the demo as well. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on these screens, but just to give you a view of what we mean by ease of use. So essentially what we're doing here is picking up all the network related information about L2 and L3 interfaces, etc., that's available in Epic, and pre-configuring those values in the app via drop downs and things like that. So it's easy to select, and you don't have to go searching around in Epic to find those values yourself. And then in the dashboards I already mentioned, you have the summary dashboard with some initial views, of some of them graphical views, and then there are more detailed information if you're looking at more information about for troubleshooting or for any other purpose that you might be interested in looking at the device. Okay. This app is available today in the App Center. Like I said, we launched it end of January. You can, if you have ADCs in the ACI environment, I really encourage you to go to the DC App Center, download or configure this app in your Epic environment, try it out, and send us some feedback, see how it's working out for you. Admittedly, it is sort of limited in functionality in the very first release, but we believe it has got enough to get you going and start managing devices using this app. And as we go forward, as we hear more from customers and users on how they are using this app, what other functionality they might like to see in it, we will be adding that in the subsequent versions. So that is really all I wanted to share with you very briefly before we jump into the demo. I think Mehul is ready with that, so
Dave,
we can go ahead and switch. Yeah, I can go ahead and make Mehul the presenter.
Actually, just hold on a second. I did have 2 questions I wanted to ask before we go to that.
Sure.
Okay, so let me just run these quick poll questions, and then we'll go to the demo. So here is the first question. We're trying to understand how many of your customers are using ADCs in the ACI environment.
Looks like a good amount of you are actually.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Okay, I think we're kind of done with this. I'll close this one very quickly. Let me share the responses. So we're happy to see it reached a good number of you have ADCs in ACI environment. Would love for you to try the app and send us some feedback. Okay, let's go to the next question. And that is the last one we have. Okay, so if your customers are using ADCs, are they using the device package today? I'd like to understand how the usage is today for the device package. So.
Yeah, so this would be for the smaller audience that has the ADCs and ACI, obviously.
Yes.
But this
yes.
is kind of our bread and butter. This is a very tight integration with Cisco. So while those poll results come in, Vikas, there was a little bit of questions about what is the app exactly. I think it'd help to clarify a little bit. So if you mind if I just speak for just a moment. So the ACI app that we have, the ADM Manager, is an app that is installed and runs directly within APIC. So this becomes the manager between the APIC, the device configuration, and then what gets pushed down layer 2, layer 3 onto the ADC, as well as simple policies. So this is an app, again, you download it from the App Center at Cisco, and then you install it onto APIC itself. And this app is somewhat mutually exclusive. So for example, if you're using the device manager that we're polling the question on, then if you wanted to use this ADM manager, you would need to stop using the device manager and then convert to the ADM manager. So just a little bit of nuance there for those that were curious how this fits into that infrastructure.
Yeah,
so
and thanks for the clarification, Dave. Just one pointer to add to what you said. Today, the app does not have the entire set of functionality that device package provides, but we'll see how that goes in the future roadmap. So, okay,
Great.
I'm going to close this question, and very quickly, here are the results. I guess very few folks are using the existing device package. So that's
lots of opportunity for the manager.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks for your responses. Let's quickly go to the demo. Dave, could you make Mehul the presenter now?
Will do. All right, Mehul, you've got the ball.
Hi, everyone. This is Mehul. Can you see my screen?
Look good.
Okay, so I'll be going through a small demo video for this app. Given the time constraint, I'll be going fast. If you have any question, please feel free to ask that in the question panel. Okay, so first we'll start with the Cisco Epic. To use this application, we need we are required to have some Cisco specific configuration. So we'll see it here. In this demo, we had already deployed a Citrix ADC under demo tenant 1, and this ADC is in unmanaged mode, so that we can manage this ADC via our Citrix ADC Manager app. We have also assigned the VLAN tags for the interfaces for this ADC, 110 and 111. And for the service graph, we have deployed a service graph tenant 1, which is in applied state, and it's using this ADC as the load balancer. Let's see the ADC configuration. This is the Citrix ADC UI, where we can see currently there are no VLANs configured. Okay, let's go back to the Epic. Under the app tab, we have already installed the Citrix ADC Manager app. Let's go to that application. The UI is pretty straightforward and simple. On the left panel, we have two tabs, Citrix ADC and the application. We'll start by registering the Citrix ADC with this application. To register, click Add button. Here, in the device add page, you see certain information you have to provide. This thing is tightly coupled with the Epic. So here you can, from the drop down, can select the tenants which are available on the Epic. And under that tenant, what ADCs are available, you can select from here. Once selected, provide the management and credential for this ADC. And you can also select, use the toggle button to change the protocol used by this app to communicate with your ADC. Click register device. Once registered, the ADC will be listed here. Under ADC, you can see the ADC specific information like what is the management IP, current state, what is the health of the ADC. Here you can see the network stitching, it is showing already done. So what we do, rather than user giving all this information manually again here, we fetch all this information from the Epic, which has been already done on the Epic side. So we fetch all this information from Epic and pre-configure your ADC so that your ADC is already ready for deploying your application. On the right side, you can see the Epic specific information for that ADC, like what is the cluster name given on the Epic, device type, deployment type, and all those things. On the left side of the row, you can see certain operations that can be performed on this ADC, like log out, delete. And for to make for the ease of use, what we have done is we have designed two dashboards for the each ADC. One is summary dashboard, which can be seen directly from here, and one is full dashboard. So to open the summary dashboard, clicking on the angle opens the summary dashboard. Here we show most of the important information about that ADC. How is your ADC doing? You can see it from here itself, like data plane and management plane CPU. What is your memory consumption, throughput hits, what is the disk usage, all things can be seen here itself. And if you want to drill down, you click on that ADC on the row, it will take you to the full dashboard where a lot more information is available, like what are the interfaces also attached to the Epic, what are the VLANs, how much traffic it is receiving, TCP, HTTP connections, all those things can be seen here. On the right side, along the dashboard, you have the configuration page, which shows the configuration for this ADC, like what is the management configuration used by this app to communicate with the ADC. Network stitching, we have already done that. You can see here that it has already detected that these are the interfaces and these are the VLANs assigned on the Epic side, and it has done all those configuration. If you see on the ADC, you can see that the VLANs are now configured and your ADC is ready to receive the traffic. You can also change the configuration like NetScaler modes and feature directly from here. So this is all specific to the particular ADC which we have selected. So this was registering and managing the ADC. Now we'll go to the application. Application registration is also straightforward. Click on add. Here you can see three drop downs. First is the tenant. Here tenants and the ADC, only the tenants which are ADC which are registered with this app will be shown here. So select the tenant and the ADC. Once ADC is selected, in the drop down menu for service graph, it will show all the service graph which are deployed on the Epic for this ADC, which are not already registered with this app. And here you can see that the service tenant graph tenant one is there. Here you can select either individual one at a time to deploy the application, or you can select all to deploy all of them in one go. Once registered, you can see the application here. Currently it is not configured, so application side information is not available. But on the right side, you can see the service graph information for this application. And this information is fetched from the Epic. So you can see like what is the graph name given on the Epic, what is the LB type used for this application, we have two ARM profile. What are the consumer and provider EPG names? All this information you can see here. Currently, it is not configured. So when you click on this row, it will directly take you to the configuration page. So this is how the configuration page looks for the application. It is, as Vikas has already shown on the slide, that it is highly driven by the profiles. You can select the profile from this drop-down menu based on whatever requirement you have, and it will pre-fill most of the required parameters and most of the used parameter and the required features for this profile. So you have to provide very minimal information, and you will be ready to deploy your application. You can provide the application name. The third option is dynamic attach, endpoint attach and detach. This option is by default enabled, and what it says is that you can decide whether you want to manage your backend servers manually for this application, or you want this application to manage them. If you enable it, what it does, it monitors Epic for any changes on the provider EPG side, backend server side, and if any new server getting attached or server getting detached, it will identify them and automatically configure the ADC, so you don't have to worry about them. So for this thing, it is already enabled. Let's see the configuration which is needed to deploy this application. Load balancer, most of the parameters are already filled. You have to provide the VIP IP. Service graph is here. You can see the members are already detected. As it was a 2-ARM profile, you have to provide the SNP IP in both the subnets in the consumer and provider side so that the connectivity works. So you have to provide those IPs. Once this information is provided, you can click submit button. So with few parameters, you are already ready to deploy your application. So even if the customer who are not much aware of the Citrix ADC configuration will be able to use this app to deploy their application. On clicking submit, if everything is proper and deployed, your application will be up and running. It is configured. You can see here. Health, it takes few seconds to calculate the health, so we'll come back to that later. Now, the design which we have seen for the Citrix ADC, like summary view and the full dashboard, it's same here also. You can click on the arrow button to open the summary dashboard. In the summary dashboard, we show the most important information, like what is the configuration for this application, what is the VIP IP port number, protocol used, and what is the method used for this application. Here you can see how many backend servers are there, and out of them how many are up and how many are down. So from here itself you can see how your application is doing, and do you need to do any troubleshooting or do any checks why your servers are down. All those things you can see directly from the summary dashboard. In the right side you can see the throughput, hits, and connection status which are coming live from the ADC. So all this useful information is available right away in the summary dashboard. Again, to drill down, click on the row. As it is already configured, now it will take you to the dashboard. So here much more detail of counters are available for that application. So this is how the application looks. We can see that the health is now available. It is calculated based on how your application and how your backends are doing. Currently, you can see that one is down and one is up. That's why the health is 50%. Now we will see one interesting one case, how the application works in the real time. Suppose if something changes on ADC on the Epic side. Let's say we change for the ADC, we change the interface VLAN ID from the Epic side. So in this case, I'm changing it from 111 to 112. Once updated, the Epic site VLAN tag is changed. So ideally, the connectivity should be broken. But if you see on the app, let's go to ADC and to the configuration. So here you can see that it has already updated the VLANs, which currently we have changed on the Epic side. And if you see, the application is still up and running without any downtime. So what we are doing, we have highly automated all this process. We can for all the application and ADCs which are registered with this application, we monitor the epic for any changes for those things. And if we detect any change, we smoothly move the configuration and update the configuration on ADC, so your application is always up and running. You don't have to worry about any changes happening on the epic side. It's all automated. So that's what I had as a demo for this app. If you have any question, please let us know. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Mehul. That was a great rundown and a good short and sweet demo. So thanks a lot for sticking around and sharing that with us. All right, so there are a few questions in chat. If you wouldn't mind sticking around to try to catch those, we'll try to get back to everyone that had any outstanding questions. A lot of participation there around Cisco and ACI. So interesting, and that's great feedback to see that the content is relevant for everyone here. All right, so with that, that brings us toward the final section of the webinar. We are going a little bit long today. Thought we'd wrap up a little bit shorter, but thanks a lot for sticking around with us. We still have a little more to go. So a lot of questions today about product names. These names changed about the beginning, if you can believe it, at the beginning of 2019. And we have been introducing them and reminding everyone for some time, but I understand that a lot of people are unable to make the webinar every month. So I think it's good for me to come back and just remind everyone of the different name changes. So for example, if you're familiar with the NetScaler brand and NetScaler as a server load balancer, we call that the Application Delivery Controller, and the new name for that is Citrix ADC. So if you're familiar with NetScaler, just think Citrix ADC. I also saw a lot of questions around NetScaler MAS, or Management and Analytics System. The new name for that is the Citrix ADM, or Application Delivery Management. So think MAS and ADM are effectively the same, just with a new name. And the same goes for other networking products as well, like the NetScaler Gateway is now the Citrix Gateway, and that's what you would use, for example, in some of your XenApps and desktop deployments to front end that, particularly if you're deploying your Citrix virtualization infrastructure and moving it into the cloud, and say your ingress is in the cloud, you may even consider the Citrix Gateway to front end that, or the gateway service in the cloud. Now, for the ADC specifically, there's a number of platforms, and we kind of breezed across these in the content today. But just to reiterate, all of these platforms run in different environments. So the BLX is a process version of the NetScaler, or ADC. The CPX is a Docker container-based form factor. Our traditional physical form factors of the ADC are both the MPX and SDX, and we continue to produce and upgrade those appliances, and we'll be refreshing them for the ongoing future. And then the VPX, the virtual one, that's what we referred to most today in terms of running in the cloud. Now, VPX is also can be an SDX instance, but in terms of expanding into the cloud, or depending on where you want your ingress to be, it may be that you prefer to leverage your existing infrastructure, your existing platforms, continue to use your MPX and SDX. It all depends on where you want your ingress to be. If ingress is in the cloud, it may make sense to use one of our newer high capacity VPXs. In order to handle that traffic. Whereas, if on the other hand, you're just expanding the backend into the cloud, perhaps keep your ingress on-prem with the physical platforms, and then use a small VPX up there in the cloud to do load balancing of the services internally. So that's a little quick rundown on the product names and what changes have happened there. The actual software remains the same. All right, so going forward, what are we doing in up and coming quarters? So we're going to launch a new seminar. It's called Building a Next Generation Hybrid Cloud. This runs between April and the beginning of May, and invite you to join or to register at bit.ly/Citrix-Roadshow. We'll be present in a number of cities throughout the Americas. So starting, for example, in Texas and April 1st in Dallas, and we'll be ending things in New York. We're also going up into Canada with these events. So if you are local to one of these events, I invite you to register at the link on this slide and join us and participate for a little lunch and learn with us. So we are still planning and expecting to have our main customer event in the middle of May. This is Citrix Synergy. So look for Synergy happening between May 19th and 21st. I believe we've already announced our early registration and that is over, but you can still register at citrixsynergy.com as well as get more information there. So Synergy is our big event where we invite you, our customers, to come learn about what's new, what new features we're bringing out there, and what are some of the ways that we can help expand and more optimally run your business with the solutions that we have. So we are expecting to have Synergy in person in Orlando. We are aware of the global virus and the conditions that are happening there. So if there is more concern about that, or if things change, we'll be providing communication to all those that have registered. And we also have a section of the site dedicated to tracking whether the event will continue as planned or if there'll be any changes going into the month of May. So with that, we covered a lot of architecture, a lot of deployment diagrams and use cases. If you'd like to get a little more detailed information on it, I would ask that you go into our NetScaler validated reference designs. These documents contain a lot of details about how to deploy the specific features and how to use them. So we covered a lot. Say if you just want to know, how do I set up auto scaling in Azure? Then you could go into docs.citrix.com, go down to advanced concepts at the bottom, and you'll find a detailed document for our validated reference design specific to that platform. So whether you're deploying in Azure, in AWS, or Google Cloud, we'll have a validated reference design for all the features that are supported in that environment. So I invite you to go to docs.citrix.com for more details if you are looking to deploy some of the solutions that we covered today in the webinar. Finally, there is the Citrix TV networking playlist on YouTube. I invite you to go to youtube.com, just search Citrix. And if you go to Citrix TV account and you scroll down under the playlist area, we have one dedicated just for networking. So this is all the networking content. In fact, there was a new video just posted this week about the ADC built-in agent to connect an ADC into ADM service. So if you're looking, where do I need an ADM agent? Can I just use the built-in agent on the device? We have a quick and easy video that was just posted this week. I invite you to go and subscribe to the Citrix TV channel and look for new networking videos that come out all the time. All right, so this is the final stretch. This is the fun part where we get to give back to those that remained with us for the hour and a half now on this webinar. So with that, I'd like to give away our prize for the day. That is your chance to win the Google Nest Hub Max. So for today, I'll be asking a question from some of the content. It's a little bit of a segue for an upcoming session that we'll have next week. Before I ask the question, I just would request that if you've won the prize from us within the last 6 months, kindly hold back for me so that I can give a good opportunity and a good playing field for those that are new and joining us recently or today, or even new people in the webinar. If you've not won or tried to win the prize, the way this works is I will ask the question, and if you could answer or provide your answer in the Q&A panel, I will pick the first person that's eligible to win and announce that that you're the winner. So with that, the question for today's prize giveaway, drum roll, is the Citrix blank licensing makes it possible to change bandwidth on the fly. So I'm looking for a specific word here. It could be premium, it could be burst, but it looks like we've got a good one here. And the first answer that I see in my feed is Sean C. The correct answer is pooled. So Citrix pooled licensing, not bandwidth, not premium, but pooled licensing enables admins to change the bandwidth of an ADC at any time. And the key here is you're able to make that change without any interruption to your existing connections. And why would you want to do that? Well, maybe you've got a big burst of traffic hitting you on-prem or in the cloud. Perhaps you're planning on scaling up a service and you need to make an adjustment right now because things are getting critical. Perhaps users are running slow. With pooled licensing, it makes it possible to make those changes dynamically and on the fly without interrupting anything that's going on the device. So congratulations, Sean C. We'll follow up with you to give you the Google Nest Hub Max. And that's kind of the perfect segue. So this is the end of the webinar for today. Feel free to provide us some comments in the feedback survey at the end of the webinar when the webinar ends. Our next session and our next topic will be all about pooled licensing. So if we piqued an interest there on what you can do on expanding into the cloud, that will be a lot of content available for you in the month of April. And that's it. That brings us to another fantastic networking masterclass. And it remains only to thank the great crew of presenters for their time and for sharing with us today all of the great content. And of course, it wouldn't be the same without you, our audience, for sticking around and for making this such a fun and interesting webinar with your questions. I'm Dave, and until next time, thanks so much and hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.